So after around 9 years of trying to quit porn and not really having much success and a lot of relapses, I believe I've now finally quit porn for good. And in this video, I'm going to share some of the top benefits of quitting. So I've got a little bit of a journal here, just wrote down like 5 reasons. So I'm going to start off with the first one, consistency. Honestly, when I was in that porn addiction, I would be so inconsistent in terms of just who I was, like as a person, like all of my actions and how I was with people. So let's say I'd gone on a long streak because I used to do the NoFap streaks, go like a few weeks, a few months, doing really well. I'm starting to feel a lot more confident and I'd feel proud of who I was and I wouldn't really be thinking about porn so much. And so I would be quite fun to be around, just a normal guy who's, enjoying life and quite clear-minded. But then what would happen is I would do these streaks and then I would relapse. Whether it's a few months, few weeks, or just a few days, I would inevitably always relapse. And then what would happen is I would just be so full of shame. I'd be so full of frustration with myself. Like I honestly hated myself after relapses. I just felt so angry that I couldn't actually control myself. And then also like having looked at stuff that just didn't align with my values, I just didn't feel good about who I really was as a person. And so when I was around people, I'd be a bit agitated or irritable or just sad and low in confidence. And I'd be so stuck in my head. I think that was the main thing, is that I'd just be overthinking everything even more than ever. It was just like all I could do was focus on, I have just looked at this like porn stuff, and like there was this fear within me that someone could see that, like they could see through me and see the reality of what I had just done and like how I just looked at some sexual content. And I really didn't feel good about that at all. And I would say one of the ways in which this actually impacted me the most was playing football, because I love playing football. I've been playing since I was probably about 5 or 6, and I've played for a few teams, not professionally, but playing football over the years, like as I say, about 9 years in porn addiction, I would be so inconsistent when I played. Some games I would play really well because I'd be on a long streak and I'd have all this energy, excitement, and my mind would be clear, and I'd get into that flow state where you can just like dribble past players, or you'd like spreading the play and like just passing it like really nicely and scoring goals. And I would just absolutely love playing football in flow state, and it would be like I wasn't even there. It's like I wasn't conscious that I was playing football. It was just like happening like naturally, and it would just be an experience. And you'd come out of that experience, out of that flow state, and you'd look back on the game and you wouldn't even be able to remember everything that happened, but you just feel like really good that you just like performed at the best of your ability, like up to your potential. But those games would be so rare. It would be really quite infrequent for me to actually play like that, because most of the time I was in this porn addiction. And so instead I lacked confidence. I was overthinking what I was going to do with the ball. I'd get the ball and I wouldn't know where to pass it. I'd be thinking about like, what do I do now when I'm on the ball? I'd be scared of making mistakes. And what that led to is me giving the ball away all the time. I wouldn't have the confidence to take on players. I wouldn't have the confidence to try the like harder passes or have the shots from long range. And I would just mess up quite a lot, and I didn't play very well. And so my performances in football were so inconsistent. And I think that was just one way in which this porn addiction really impacted my life, is that consistency of how I played in football, but also who I was as a person, interacting with people. I just wouldn't be as like happy or content having a conversation with people, because in my mind I'm just thinking about the fact I'd looked at porn. So I can't really stress it enough, but when you actually quit porn, you have this consistency and you just feel like you're the same person day in, day out. If I go and play football now, I'll play the same pretty much every match. Obviously some games I'll maybe be a little bit better than others, but there's not this like massive variance anymore. And in terms of like people, day by day, I would say, yeah, just the same person with like everyone really. I'm not trying to hide anything anymore. It's like I'm fully present, I'm fully here. Like there isn't anything to hide. And so it's just like me. And that just feels so good to just know that day in, day out, there's nothing really to worry about. There's nothing to prevent people from seeing. I'm just consistent. So I just love being so much more consistent than I once was. So I've talked about that enough now, so I'll move on to benefit number 2. Trusting myself completely. Just knowing in my heart, in my mind, in every way, that if I have an urge to look at porn, which is very rare nowadays because I know the consequences of doing that, but if I was to have an urge, I know exactly how to deal with that urge. Same for anything really. Any urge or desire for something that is compulsive, that is something I don't really want to be engaging in, I know how to handle that now. And so I can trust myself entirely. We had a coaching call last night with a new client, and he was talking about how so often in the past, before the program, he had felt so much like fear around being on his own, being back in an apartment on his own and maybe not knowing what to do with his evening. And so trying to distract himself constantly, going out and socializing or going to the gym and doing various things with various people because he had this fear of being on his own, because he didn't know how to deal with his desire. Now, for me, I was the same. I remember at one point I would put my phone in the locker at work, go home, wake up, go back to work, take my phone out of the locker. The reason I did that was because I didn't trust myself to have my phone in the evening, because on that day I'd been experiencing some urges and I was like, I don't trust myself. But nowadays, as I say, any urge comes up, I've got a very, very specific script that I read through. I think through the consequences. There's an option A, there's an option B. It's personalized to me. I make a choice in that moment because I know the consequences and I know the benefits of choosing not to look at porn and engage in the compulsive behavior. So just trusting myself, knowing that at all moments, anything can happen, any triggers can come up. I'm going to know what to do in those moments. And so there's just no fear. There's no fear of what I might do in the future. And when you don't trust yourself, it just does not feel good. I can say that from experience. So benefit number 3 would be connection with people. I was just talking to Andy, who runs the studio here, a little bit about my plans for the weekend in terms of watching the football. And I've got to admit, I feel quite pleased that over time what I've managed to do is form a lot more connections with people, because I know in the past when I was in the porn addiction, I just didn't want to connect with people at all, whereas now I'm actually looking forward to going and watching the football with some people at the weekend, and I'm trying to figure out who do I watch it with, because there's various different people I could watch this game with. But yeah, when I was in the porn addiction, I just wouldn't have wanted to come out of my house. I would have probably wanted to just watch that game on my own. Or if I was going to go watch it with people, all I'd be thinking about is drinking loads of beer, just getting really drunk. So then I feel okay. So I think in the depths of that porn addiction, I just really wanted to isolate myself and disconnect myself from the rest of the world because I was so ashamed. Obviously for some people, they just aren't going to want to go out, and that has nothing to do with porn. Yeah, it's different for everyone, but I know for me personally, I'm quite an extroverted person, and I do enjoy time with others. I really, really enjoy being social. But when I was in the porn addiction, I kind of lost that. I remember when I was younger in particular, I was doing theatre studies at school. Started off really well because I don't think I was in the porn addiction so much, and I really liked being on the stage and performing and acting. I just really did enjoy that. But then over time, probably around when I was about 16, 17, I really got into the porn and got addicted. And then I was so anxious being on that stage. I hated it, and I just could not act at all. I was really bad at acting because in my mind again, I was just overthinking. I just didn't want to be seen by anyone. Whereas nowadays, I would probably like to get back into acting at some point, and I'd enjoy that, and I wouldn't have that porn addiction going on in my mind. So I could definitely do that nowadays. But yeah, just in general, connecting with people, I would say really enjoy it now. Never really think about it. I don't think about not wanting to connect with people. I don't have this anxiety anymore. It's just you go chill with some people and have a good time, have a laugh. You don't really need to be too insecure or worried that people are going to find out about looking at that you've looked at porn. And also just having more energy as well. So that'd actually be my 4th one, is having a lot more energy, feeling full of life, just wanting to go and create stuff, wanting to connect with people, wanting to be present and just embrace life really. I think it's so important to just know that we are all going to die one day, and so making the most of life and using your energy in the right ways is just so important to me personally. And I feel like I have way more energy when I choose not to look at porn, which is what I always do now. So just basically having gone beyond compulsion. Number 5 is confidence. I think this is one that a lot of people talk about when it comes to quitting porn. And yeah, I think what's happened for me personally is like in the early stages of quitting porn, I remember my confidence would be a bit like outward. I'd appear really, really confident. And I think I was, but it's almost like this overexcitement, because maybe you've got some more like energy, or you've got like these urges going on, and you feel like so full of life in a weird way. But often it's just cravings, and often it's just the addiction in the early stages anyway. But then what happens over time as you actually like recover and rewire the brain properly is you sort of settle a little bit, and like the confidence is kind of more inward. You don't need to like kind of show like you're confident to people. It's just something that you are at that point, because you trust yourself and you know yourself, and you know you're in control of yourself at all moments. And I don't think there's many things in life more important than that. I don't know how anyone can feel fully confident if they're not actually in control of themselves, if they're still acting out in ways that they don't want to act out, and they can't trust themselves. So I think confidence does come from being in control of yourself and being able to manage your own emotions, whether it's a really intense desire to look at porn, or whether it's like anger, frustration, sadness, loneliness, anxiety, whatever it is. I think when you can master like all of your emotions, then you're naturally going to feel a lot more confident. So they're my top 5. If I was just to go over them again, it's consistency, trusting myself, connection with people, more energy, and more confidence. Now, all of this is absolutely possible for you, and a lot more. Hopefully you're already experiencing some of these benefits already, if you are also joining me in quitting porn. So if you do want more help or support in terms of going beyond compulsion and actually quitting this for good, I do recommend watching the free training video. There's a link in the description, a video of me and Mary Paulus, my mentor, who helped me quit porn. Hopefully that video can help you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.